Kia ora koutou. Okay, few technical difficulties, but we're about to go. Let's get to the mahi. Okay. Right. Manoa tia matariki koutou, no mai, ki tō tātou nei wahanga tuatahi o te rā nei. We're getting into the business now, what we're here for, and it's to listen to our fabulous array of speakers. Don't want to hold the mic. We came here to listen to our fabulous keynote speaker. So I'm going to introduce very, very briefly. Awhitia Mihaere is a healer, a traditional birther, a tohunga ruahine, and a teacher of rongoā Māori within Te Wānanga o Aotearoa. E te maraikura, tēnā koe. Tēnā koe me te ngā aroha mō tō tātou nei kaupapa. I whai wā ki te haramai, ki te tākoha o kōrero o mātauranga i raro i te kawa o matariki. Ki te kore tōroa e hikaka ana mātou ki te rongo, ki a ki o kōrero, nā reira e i roto i tērā whakaro, o tērā matariki i rewa ki te pai. E Ngāti Kahunganu, e Awhitia Mihaere, hei a koe, te tua papa nei, nau mai haere mai.
Hi. I feel like I think so we're here to celebrate the future. The future of what, the future of what is expected for us, what we manifest. So the kaupapa is tērā matariki ka rewa te pai. Ka mihi atu kia koutou i whakatau tēnei o tātou kaupapa. Ka mihi atu ki te wā me ōna katoa tua i uhia mai i rungi a tātou katoa. Ko te rewa, tērā matariki ka rewa i te pai. I'm new to this beautiful gadget here somewhere. So let's just start with this. Okay. Good. I'm just really mindful of the other audiences that we have here. And I want to make sure. And our whānau that's here with us. So just bear with us, whānau, for those who are on Zoom. I know what it's like when you're a kaiako and you're trying to Zoom people in, and then you're trying to teach a class. I feel this is very much similar to what we're doing right now. I'm in a lecture theatre trying to give a kōrero to the class. So let's just go with what's happening. And thank you everyone for being patient.
What's going on here?
Yeah, we're not being anxious, no. So just while they're doing all of that, I just want to let you know that I'm very, very grateful for those who have asked for me to come and speak with you today. In my healing practices, I've had a lot of time with those who have suffered with cancer. And just last year, in 2021, when I wrote my exegesis, we're going to talk about that today. Are we all ready to go? Okay. Falling in time.
Can people hear us on that?
Can you hear us, our New Zealand interpreter? Can you hear us? Okay. Are we all set to go? Yeah. Are we thumbs up? Ka pai. All right. Can our people who are in the audience, we need the interpreter, can they see your interpreter?
Oh,
Yeah, these ones. Okay. Pai? Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And so when I talk, how is it going?
They can't see.
They can't see the interpreter. Let's just make sure we have the interpreter, please, before we start. This is really important that we have our interpreter starting. And so whilst they're doing that, I just want to talk about what I do in terms of my practices. So for many years, I've been practicing rongoā. as a kaiako and as a healer. And this kaupapa came close to my heart when I was given a time to reflect on this kaupapa called cancer. In the wānanga that I belong to, cancer it does not exist. This kaupapa doesn't exist in our world. And so in order we don't call it cancer, we have another name for it. We know that it exists in terms of, but the word itself, being that of Greek, coming from another space and time, we do not give energy to it at all. And so over the years, I would have had more than 100 plus people who have had cancer of all various types, not just one sort of cancer. So in 2021, when I was writing my exegesis, my Masters of Applied Indigenous Knowledge, I placed myself in a room for 1 month to write my exegesis because I had just lost my tribal brother, my brother, to cancer. And so in order to deliver this kaupapa today, I needed to reflect back on this kaupapa and who it affected in that time. 1 month it took me to write my exegesis and deliver this today. This exegesis has never been given to the world. It's the first time that I would present it, and I thought it fitting that this would be the place to celebrate a science that has not been revealed to the world from a Māori perspective. So, tērā matariki karewa I te pai. Matariki is about to elevate very soon within the next few weeks. Right. I'm going to read this in Māori and you can read it. I'm going to speak to it in Māori and you can read it in English. So I'm going to go between two worlds, both the English world and the Māori world. Te pō au. I am from the pō. I tau mai koe e io. Kia arahina nei koe I a mātou. Tākiri atu ko nā pau aro. Ka tauira koe ki te ao katoa. Mahere taka wai koe ko nā mahi tataia e koe ko enei matatua. Ko te iho e hono tapu atu ki ngā kaupapa kahiria. Kia aka ko ngā wairau mata. Hei tuia, hei ātamau ki ngā tāria. Tau mai ko ngā ako I a rau. Ko te aho, mauhere, e hoka nei ki te tō. Tihei, mau ora e. Papa Hohe Patalamea was one of my mentors, a tohunga of the cosmos, a tohunga also of the taiao. Nā te kore te pō, nā te pō te rapuna, nā te rapuna te whaia, nā te whaia te kune, nā te kune te pupuke, nā te pupuke te hiringa, nā te hiringa te mahara, nā te mahara te hinengaro. Nā te hinengaro te tumanako, nā te tumanako te pono, te whakapono me te tūpono. Ko te tika I titi iho nā io. Ka tipu ko te wānanga. How are we doing? Right? I'm just watching what's going on in the lecture theatre. I'm being mindful. I want to make sure that we've got this right. Yeah? How are we doing for the next slide? Can we go forward? Is our audience? Pai? All right. Anei taku kaupapa. Māori epistemology and the quantum science of io. bridging ancestral knowledge and Western science. I just want to tell you about the tohu. The tohu was gifted to me by beautiful Tane from Ngāti Hine. And how it was gifted to me was because he received a healing session. He had no money. He didn't know what to give. And so he said, "Whaia, would you accept this tohu as my tākoha?" Māori epistemology and the quantum science of Io is about bridging ancestral knowledge and Western science. Wisdom keepers. The reason I put these beautiful tāne up, tohunga, is because they have had a huge influence in my life. They're the wisdom keepers of science. For thousands of years, Māori have been practitioners of science, as evidenced by their depth navigation across vast oceans and intricate understanding of regional environmental rhythms. The scientific expertise enabled Māori to thrive in harmony and natural cycles, highlighting the integral role of science in their cultural practices. Maupealag, who is in the middle, a grandmaster navigator, developed a personal connection to the sea. Early in life, when he was placed in tide pools as an infant to feel the ocean pool. At 4 or 5 years old, his grandfather Rangipi chose him to study as an apprentice navigator. Mo learned to navigate using clues from the sun, the winds, the clouds, the seas, the swells, the birds, and the fish. This knowledge was acquired through rote learning and teaching passed down through the oral traditions. Reriata, who is on the right of me and on the left of you, Reriata Makiha, a renowned astronomer, is dedicated to preserving and promoting ancient traditions in Ao Māori. At the age of 80, he entered into the Wharewananga, the School of Ancient Knowledge of Astrology, known to returning the maramataka Māori back to our people. Hoepa Delamere, on the left of me, on the right of you, deposited the quantum science of Io to students such as I. He was anointed by his grandmother, great-grandmother, while still in the womb of his mother, and was later raised by his grandmother, immersed in the ancient sciences of Te Tai Ao and the quantum of Io. These three scientists were chosen by their grandparents to acquire and preserve the ancient knowledge of their ancestors. Our science is deeply embedded in our cultural beliefs and spirituality, making it a rich and complex knowledge base. Western practitioners often struggle to understand the depth and richness of Indigenous knowledge due to these cultural integration. Our view of science includes our cosmological connections to Io and Atua, which are integral to our understanding of the world. Our ancient schools of learning were suppressed by the Tohunga Suppression Act of 1907. This act, along with marginalization, assimilation, and continued discrimination, has greatly impacted our ability to pass down and practice our traditional knowledge. Yes, despite these challenges, we continue to persist. As you know, and I've spoken about, in 2021, I completed a Master's of Applied Indigenous Knowledge. My thesis was Te Rangiora Quantum Science of Io. We're here to celebrate whānau. We're here to celebrate Matariki. And it is the first time in our ever knowing where to present. I am to present the quantum science of Io. It is not old. It is to understand our world from a Māori worldview. My rangahau aims, my rangahau aims to reclaim our sovereign voice and absolute freedom to tell our own stories and conduct our own rangahau for the benefit of our people. It is about taking back control of our narrative and ensuring our knowledge is preserved and respected. I applied Linda Smith's kaupapa research methodology, which acknowledges the legitimacy of Māori knowledge and recognises that Māori have long held and tested what are described as scientific principles. These principles are aroha ki tetahi. Kanohi ki tina, titiro whakarunga, titiro whakararo, whakarungo me te kōrero. Mana ki tangata, kia tūpato, kaua e takahia te mana o te tāngata. Kaua e mahaki. I also used in my research method, I applied in my research method, the whakatauki method and the pūrākau methodology. Nau te raurau, nā ku te raurau, ka ora ai te iwi. For me, the participants that I engaged with, nā kai kōrero, they were kai raranga, kai waiata, kai oko of rongoa Māori, kai haka. And it was about how are we going to capture their stories? How are we going to give their stories back to the world? And so the Raudo method is a unique approach that legitimizes quantum science through Papahoe Patalame's analogies of eel. I haven't got the whole template of eel up there, but it was an assessment tool that I used to help me to give validation and substantiation to the pūrākau, the stories of all my participants. This method provides a space for the voices of our participants, each of whom brings a valid perspective on the relativity of science. The Raudo method empowers participants to own their thought process, allowing them to give voice to their experiences through wānanga settings with myself and Papahoe Padalame. This subjective ownership is crucial as it respects and elevates their individual and collective journeys. The pūrākau methodology will illustrate a transformative healing process of how a romirumi rākau, a romirumi paunamu, a romirumi rākau from Hawaii is used and applied to the body to heal the mind, body, and soul, and reclaim our traditional narratives that have been latent inside our tipuna kōrero. And here are the quantums. I've only put up 4 whānau. There's actually 12. But because I've only got 25 minutes, I will give you 4. And this is to celebrate Matariki. When she rises, when Matariki rises, so do the quantums whānau. The quantums are our evidence-based science for all healing practices. They're just not allocated to the kaupapa that we have today with cancer, to prevention of injury, to injury with ACC. As the chairperson of ACC and a practitioner of ACC, a rongo provider, these quantums help me to do my assessment tools in terms of my practice after I finish my clients and before I start with the clients. So these quantums are about taha wairua and mauri. So the quantum time is actually 1 second rule. So all of you who are practitioners in this room, you know immediately in 1 second what is wrong with the person in front of you without looking at the notes. This is how we practice. We know immediately through wairua, through mauri, exactly why the person has arrived in our clinic prior, whilst they're in the clinic, and after they leave, because of the wairua that they bring into the space. The quantum consciousness of Io Kuruwai is, we absolutely know as practitioners, you who are practitioners, doctors, oncologists, you absolutely know without a doubt, I know why this is happening. I can apply this for this purpose, so we can give this person at least this time, longevity to be here on Earth. Quantum evolution is about Io Matua. Upskilling. We hear a lot about Io Matua Kore, but upskilling is the Māori. You need to upskill your practice from as Māori to Māori. You need to be upskilling. Why is it that you all of a sudden have this relationship with this person? How come this person has come into your clinic for your advice to be able to help them heal? Why didn't they go down the road? That is the reason why in our practice, we know when we connect Māori to Māori, it's about Io Matua. It's about the quantum evolution that that person who's come into your clinic is looking for evolution for their wellness. Quantum expectations, Io tukutuku. The availability of what the time that you give them. How much time do you give them? What time, how much time do they have left to be here on this earth? What are you giving them when they are in your quantum expectation? What is the availability that you have for them to reach out for Rongo Māori, the essence of Io? I know this is like, wow, never heard of it before. I've never heard of the quantum of Io, but hey, we're here because we live in the future. We come from the future. We are the future. So quantum time. So with the, furthermore, this method, quantum, right, let's go into this. I better go back to my notes, Vano. So we believe that the quantum science of Io is deeply interwoven with our tikanga and our kawa practices. Are we all right, Vano? As healers, tohunga teachers of ancient knowledge and spirituality, presenting challenges for Western sciences to fully grasp the depth and richness of Indigenous knowledge. From the assessment tool of quantum science that I talked about, this is only part of our assessment tool. As I told you, there's 12, but you know, I don't have much time. So I wanted to really reiterate on Wairua and Māori. This intricate relationship between culture and science exemplifies a sophisticated knowledge base akin to quantum science and its recognized practice within health science. Science develops the imaginative mind to develop and engage in Māori epistemological views that present cultural values and the utilization of absolutely knowing what you see, feel, touch, hear, taste, our wairua, our Māori, and their personal lived experience. So what you see up here on the board up there is that's their personal lived experience, our wairua. How many of our people can walk into clinics and talk like this? There's not many. They cannot engage into the health science process because they are, one, too afraid to, two, then get assessed again for mental health. In the quantum sciences, we believe exactly what they're talking about. And part of my practice is because we can see their tipuna and we can validate that they are actually present, our wairua in the room. Quantum evolution, I know there's a lot of slides up there, but for those who are on the Zoom, you'll be like, wow, I know that, but you know, for this is the Māori. I'm only bringing out 2 quantums. When your practice can practice from a wairua perspective and a Māori, then the physical then taps in. You cannot tap into the physical until you tap into the wairua and the Māori of the tangata. You cannot. The tinana will tell you the tinana never ever lies. The person who is in front of you can tell you lots of stories, but you have to bring them back to their reality. And that's what we do in terms of our healing practices. Validation, like everything else, needs to be substantiated at the helm of eo before declaration can be offered or given that will affirm the place, space, and time of those who arrive in your clinics. The quantum science of eo tukutuku that we talked about in eo matua supports the modi of objects and that of the human being to live in both worlds, the metaphysical world and the human world. This requires neutrality and objectivity to achieve the outcome of wellness through the connectivity of modi ki te modi. For some of you, I know some of this corridor is way out there, but matarikas are rising. And if we don't get it now, we won't be able to get it. There. I can feel it in the room that some of you is going, wow. The experience of modi to modi for each participant proves that the etiology of Māori science is the connectivity to rākau and rākau romi and la'ao romi that share the synergies of eo tukutuku and the quantum expectations of shifting Māori moi to Māori ora through the application of romi. Ka pai, nearly there, whānau, we're getting there. We are the manifestations of eo. As I conclude, I would like to finish with another kai kōrero of how she felt during her romi sessions with Papa Hoipa Dalamea in 2002. She was, it was at that time that she went through her chemo process. And because she had leukemia. And so she sought the healing energies, the mauri, the wairua of Hoipa Dalamea to help her to heal. There was at a time that she needed to accept what she had, needed to acknowledge the illness she had, needed to feel what she had. And this was her kōrero. I had phenomenal results as I never knew that romi could release phosphate from my muscles and release muscles from my bones. Until Papa Hoipa told me what happened, our wairua, our mauri, to why this illness came about. I was never told by any physician why and how this came about. When Papa Hoipa told me, I could feel the difference and I started to change. My body, my physiology, my biology, my psychology changed. Nor did I know about cellular memory until Papa explained what pressure points could release the emotional trauma in my body from receiving a kōrero from the physician that I needed chemo. But now it makes sense. Now it makes sense. After reading what she gave me, Avitia, now I know what the quantums are all about. I was able to take the quantum assessment tool and use that as part of my healing. The Rodo method and Pūrākau methodologies recognize the impacts of Western science and medication, the process, the body with toxins that she had. And so she felt at that time that the romi process, the healing process, the wairua and the mauri of ancient tools used by Papa Hoipa kept her alive till she was age 40. In contrast, quantum science of eo upskills the participants on how the tinana can hold mamai and past trauma. From the cellular memory in the body, romi rebalances the negative and positive polarities to shift into a paradigm of eo. No reira raurangatira mā, anei te mihi mai hake au koe e papa, Moi manaakitanga I rungi a tātou. Kia kauparetia. Tāwharatia tēnei o tātou kaupapa. I leave with you a whakatauki that he wrote that I left in my, at the last part of my chapter in my thesis. Arise, O soft breeze, lest we forget. 'Tis I that let you go in search of your destiny. Through the climbs of time, that insights motivation, acquiring preciousness from the cosmos, from whence the consciousness began. We are the manifestations of Io e Au. Without vision, the people will perish. King Tawhia. Nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā tautau, tēnā koutou katoa. Matariki, era, te mata, te konga, te tū I te rani, o, rangi nui, e pia tata mai ana, whakatata I te rangi, e tohu o te tauhama, ko tipu aku, ko tipu arani, ko waiti waita. Waipuna rani, urani ko tipu aku, ko tipu arani, ko waiti waita. Waipuna rani, urani ko potu kawa ko hiwa I te rani matariki ara matariki matariki ara si hai Mariora. Mariora.
Hero, hapene kia koe mai mātou kia koe I whai wā ki te tāko mai o kōrero, rangatira o kōrero miha with mātou. A kia timata tika ai te hui nei I raro I te kao matariki. Nō reira, e te whaia tēnā koe te marae kura, neira te mihi, e kore e neneti te puna mihi mau, nō reira tēnā koe.
Are there any questions? No.
Oh,
There's no question.
Yeah, I'll get to that now. Uia mai te pounamu, uia mai ngā pātai, uia mai ngā puru pounamu. So, you can have, well, we're going to do a wānanga later. Unfortunately, technical difficulties probably narrowed that wānanga, but we'll try and maximize that opportunity so that we can get other speakers and so we can have a nice holistic wānanga with all of the facets, if that's okay with you, Whaia. Kia ora. And in that spirit, hopefully I can get this technology to work, and then I'll just also make sure that it works really quickly. It's just gonna work for me. So I'm using Slido. This is just to get you set up. I'll probably fire off a question yet. We haven't really done any whakawhanaungatanga. We normally do that at the start. So the first couple of questions is really just for getting to know our rōpū in preparation for that wānanga that we're going to have with all the speakers. So full disclosure, you don't have to register if you haven't used Slido before. You just go to the website, you can use your phone, put that code in, uru pounamu, which is Māori word for questions, I suppose, really important questions. So that's the code for today's Slido. You don't have to register, you don't have to log in or give away any details. You can just participate on your phone over the course of the day. There is a Q&A session as well. That's one of the places we're asking you to record your questions and get them ready for the wānanga so that we can look at those online, so that you can put them in as soon as you think of them. Otherwise, also be prepared to put up your hand when we do the wānanga. For those of you on Zoom, you can use the chat function, I think, if that's okay. Zoom, you might not be able to see
I'll send a link.
We'll send the link to the Slido so you guys can participate as well. Anyway, I don't want to take up any more time on that. I want to introduce our next cool, amazing speaker. Are you able to sort this out? So we started off with Ngāti Kahungunu, although got Maniapoto as well in there. And I think I saw one of your wakahuia video, he hononga hoki ki Ngāti Parau ne awhitia. We're going to carry on. Our next speaker hails from Ngāti Parau. So Ellen Prophet is a clinical nurse specialist supporting adolescent and young adults as they navigate hematological and oncological diagnoses. In 2009, she created Te Awa metaphorical conversation tool for young people to use to help cope with the ups and downs of the turbulent cancer journey, a bit like a turbulent river. I hope I got that right. So today we are really blessed that Ellen is here to share the findings of her Masters in Nursing. And is very generously sharing those findings, which she captured the way that Te Awa has helped and how she uses it in her daily mahi to support rangatahi with cancer. Nā reira whānau, taringa areare mai ki te tuapapa nei, kia rongo ai koutou i te mana o Te Awa na Ellen Prophet, he uri o paraurangi he ha koe te mana.
Good whānau. Going to be a bit like death by PowerPoint. It's my security blanket, okay? So bear with me. I've done the maths. 10 seconds a slide. Ko hukirangi te maunga, ko wāpu te awa, kuhorau te waka ko rāhui me rauru o ki marae. Ko Ngāti Parau tōku iwi. By the way, if you feel like you know me, but my name doesn't match my face, I was blessed with a twin sister. And her name is Jolene, and she has a background of nursing too. But yeah, she's doing amazing things in health for Aotearoa whānau and immunisation space. So yeah. So just always like to take a chance to let people know about the mahi that I do. I've been nursing 27 years. I was one of the first Tihei Māori Order students under the late great Auntie Becky Fox and Janet Maloney and Rewe Pānapa, and came to Waikato to do my nursing. So yeah, first 10 years I did paediatric surgery and cancer, and I was the shared care nurse looking after all the tamariki rangatahi with cancer in Waikato. And then this role came up 17 years ago, supporting rangatahi with cancer. So my role here that I support my bosses, by the way, if you hear the term boss, it's my young people. I come to work for them and I come to serve them. So I call them my bosses. So yeah, so that's my role here that I support 12 to 24-year-olds. And there's 7 of us in Aotearoa. Yeah, it's been amazing space to help pioneer this, because rangatahi were never supported specifically in the health sector and cancer. So yeah, so I'm going to talk to you about Te Awa. What is Te Awa? I'm a bit of a grassroots kind of chick. I like to keep things simple, and in health, as we know, there's a whole lot of terminology and speak that is really confusing. And I did waka ama for 14 years. Used to paddle Waikato River 3 times a week for over the years, and started seeing the similarities between an awa and the complexities of a cancer journey and the twists and turns and the rocks that people may hit and the caves that they may flow into. So I just started having this kōrero with young people and talking about the awa, and over the years it kind of just flowed and took off on its own. And when we stop, I was trying to think of some really cool way to talk today and present this, because I've had the honor of sharing my kōrero for a while now, and I was going to get some sound behind me and have a river flowing. But anyway, so yeah, I learnt through one of my colleagues that I was having a metaphorical conversation. I just thought I was having this kōrero with young people, and I looked it up and found it's just using one thing to help explain another thing. And I had a bit of a gift with it. I remember my high school friends saying, "Oh, you've got a really cool way of explaining things that are really difficult, like in chemistry and things." And I'm like, most of us New Zealanders can relate to it because we're a river-rich nation. And for us Māori whānau, you know, we always, it's embedded and infused in us, ko waikuia, which waters you from. And it helps young people talk about a really scary thing. They're talking about cancer and potentially dying and facing this life-threatening cancer. So it's a non-threatening way, frightening way to talk about something that's really, really scary. Am I going to be here next, you know, at my next birthday, or what's life going to be like? You'll see in my kōrero, I'll share it with you. My bosses, they flavour it to their own liking. It's been a co-design over 16 years. I've been learning from my bosses and I share it with other bosses. And as we know, if we step back and we look at the whole globe, no two rivers are the same. So no two cancer journeys are the same. You might have 100 young people in this room with leukemia, but none of them have exactly the same cancer experience journey. And it can be our own secret code language. I could be in a busy hematology clinic and say, hey boss, how's your river today? Oh, I hit a rock. I know straight away, let's go find a room and have a bit more of a kōrero about that. I try to introduce te awa as close to diagnosis as possible, and then we just talk about it along the way, and whenever the young person wants to talk about it. Where can it be used? Face-to-face, over the phone, in clinic, in the wards, wherever. Who uses it? I do, my young people, my bosses do, their whānau. But over the years, as I've shared it, and I'll highlight that to you, my colleagues are taking it and they're using it as well. So yeah, so please feel free after today to take the kōrero and use it, and yeah, share it and feedback to me too if you've got any really cool experiences like others have. As we know, this is the standard cancer continuum. Here's my spin on it. So I introduce to young people as close to diagnosis as possible, and we're talking about prevention and research all the way along the awa. I support bosses through diagnosis treatment. Sometimes they flow into palliative care, and thankfully quite a considerable amount of young people, probably around about 60-ish% of my bosses flow onto surveillance and survivorship. Unfortunately, I've been in health for a little bit now. I've had bosses relapse, and I've had bosses that I met when they were in children's cancers coming back with adult cancers. So I've had to support bosses again over another waterfall. So we're going to go on a little bit of a journey together. So I asked my boss to tell me how they got to where they are, how did they get to sitting in front of me today? So it's a little bit of a time to reflect, and they'll share with me about their journey. So it might be a young man, 18, first 15, prop, had a lump on his neck. Sun was shining around about a month ago. He was on his river, kayaking, going hard. Then his health journey started getting a bit rocky and the river started getting a bit choppy. And then he had to go to the GP, and GP said, oh, just take some anti-inflammatories, you'll be right. And a few weeks goes by and it gets a bit worse, and he goes to ED and they're like, oh, there's a bit of a lump there, we better check it out. So then the river's getting quite turbulent, and then it gets chucked over the waterfall. I usually talk to my bosses and pause the hour there and talk to them about the fish, because when I did children's nursing, I remember a mum, and it really stuck in my head. She'd been in Starship for about 3 months with her daughter, and they got home and she was uptown, let's just say Mata Mata, and she saw one of her best friends walking towards her, and her friend walked across the street. And she was like, what have I done, you know? So here's this grown woman trying to understand the complexities of the social impact on her and her family. So I don't want my rangatahi having to, you know, question that too. So I share them tips that they can love or shove along the journey. So I share with them that some fish might go along with you, some might do a yui, and then some other fish might join our experience. So yeah, so the cancer diagnosis, when they're getting told about their cancer, can feel like being chucked over a waterfall. Holy, what are we in for? What's the impact? Am I gonna be able to go to university next year? I'm at university in Dunedin. How's that impacting? Do I have to pack up and go home to, you know, Waikato. So yeah, we talk about how some fish go over the waterfall with them and some go, too scary. My mate's just got cancer diagnosis. I might stuff up and say the wrong thing. I'm just going to back. And I share with them some fish come over at a later date and some you may never see again. So cancer, as I've been told by lots of my bosses, is a good way of weeding out people that don't need to be in your life as well. So there is rays of sunshine on the awa. So yeah, so some fish disappear. And then it's over the rapids, going for CT scans, PIC lines, MRIs, bloods, bone marrow aspirates, and the holy let me out. But as you can see, the awa is so, the sides of that awa are so steep. You don't want this cancer, but you just have to go with the flow. And then I'm giving them tips that they can love and shove about managing the fish, because as we know, the old kuma divine works. Next minute you've got nanny ringing you up and auntie ringing or cousin ringing you up. And you're like, I'm still trying to process. I'm still falling over the waterfall, trying to get my head around this cancer diagnosis. And I've got people ringing me, contacting me. So just teaching bosses around ways to manage that. And one of my young people, I shared with them about the fish and how they're supposed to be there and how to keep buoyant and floating along. And then one of his fish turned into a piranha. And I was like, what? A piranha? So yeah, this is that co-design going on all the time. So yeah, we spent some time talking about his nan and how she was trying to tell him to have vitamin C and stop eating this and stop doing this. So yeah, he chucked her on the bank for a little bit. When she settled down, she was allowed to slip back in. So yeah, sometimes the awa can be really isolating. Some of my young people don't have very much family, support. Some of them do it alone and cling on to us colleagues, health colleagues. So yeah, in time, things start to settle and they get used to the flow of the awa. And I, over time working with this, I kind of see bends in the awa, like treatments when they're coming in for chemo or various treatments, and the times the straights are kind of time at home, resting and recuperating. So rocks can mean, when a boss says I've hit a rock, it could be a PIC line infection, or it could be a relationship breakup, or it could be my counts aren't high enough to have chemo. So then it's going to delay my treatment. So I'm not going to finish in time to go to my school ball or whatever. I'm sorry, I played with this last night, so it's all probably going to go behind each other. That's a gentleman capsized out of his waka. So yeah, it can feel real isolating. And sometimes they feel like they're alone on their own navigating the awa. And sometimes bosses can float into caves. It's psychologically, and it's about providing the tools. We're not working on our own. So I always share to bosses about the supports out there, the psychology supports and things. And a really good way that I've managed to get young people into being open to having psychology support is sharing with them about the All Blacks, or about, high performing health professionals and how they have sports psychologists to help keep their head in the game. And I'm like, why aren't you worthy of your own psychologist to help you keep your head in the game? So yeah, sharing with them about the different supports along the awa. Gosh, and I've got 2 minutes left. Co-design, again, back in the day, I used to say you're in your kayak, you get chucked out of your waka, and then you navigate along out of the rapids and you climb into an outrigger. And one of my young ladies says, I don't want an outrigger, I want a jet ski. So young people have taught me too. So I get them to visualize, and it's really powerful seeing what they navigate their awa on. And appointments and scans can be scary. It's a time of concern. Is my cancer going the way it should be, or do we need to take another route? When I first started doing te awa, it was flying out to the estuary, but after working with it for some time, it was ascending to wherever the young person feels like they ascend to of their awa, and it's a team approach. Helping young people go into the new normal. You hear lots of people go, I just want to get back to normal, but how can you have been chucked over this waterfall and experience this journey to be, normal? You're in it, experience lots of things, and it's the new normal. Lots of anxiety around recurrence, so just teaching bosses around that and learning about speaking up for themselves and advocating and not waiting for that clinic appointment to come back. And teaching them about the dams in the awa, about prevention. So about being sun smart and smoking. And so, yeah, so the boss may be introduced to me through one cancer, but I take the opportunity to remind them about prevention and keeping other cancers away. And then the follow-up phase. The follow-up phase is interesting. It can be as scary, I've found, as being chucked over the waterfall. I've stood outside a clinic, appointments a number of times, and it's almost like you have to push the boss out the door because the finished treatment, you think they'd be like, yeah, but it can be so scary because they're used to health professionals supporting them and seeing them quite regularly, having blood tests and reviews. So they get used to the support of seeing health professionals and knowing that their body's going well. But yeah, so getting checked out to the estuary for follow-up 3 monthly and then 6 monthly. Yeah, so then once they finish their treatment, it's out to sea to go sailing and adventuring like everybody else. And then over the years, I've managed to infuse this amazing gentleman's Te Whare Tapa Whā on it. So this is kind of my view of what I do when I'm catching up with bosses. So when I'm in clinics, I'm like, to the average person, they might think I'm just having a bit of a catch up with a boss. But while I'm sitting there, I'm going, oh, so, last time you were in, you had mucositis. How's your mouth cares? You're going okay. Is this going right? You had a bit of pain. Are you on the right pain medicines? Oh, have you caught up with your mum lately? So I'm doing a Te Whare Tapa Whā screen every time I catch up with a boss along the hour. And then I like this visual and this whakatauki, te toto o te tangata he kai, te oranga o te tangata he whenua me te awa. So it's a nice visual of what the awa's doing internally within us. It's feeding us, it's nourishing us, our body. Yeah. I started getting feedback from bosses. And I kind of started the journey of finding out exactly if it did help. So this young lady shared with her mum that, hey, that's why Auntie's kind of gone, because the impact. I had a young lady who's passed on now. She said, where am I on my river journey? And she reminded me about reflection, because I said, oh, I think you might be ascending off your river. No, I'm not. The doctor's going to give me a trial. Joe says it helps things stick. You can visualize it. And George, as I shared with you, one of his fish turned into a piranha. And Tedia said, I can't wait to smell the salt sea air. So I was getting this feedback and I thought, well, it's time to kind of figure out formally. So I did do my master's on it. And it was deemed this beautiful title, How Does the Metaphorical Conversation Assist Young People? So I did a big long journey, and there's a number of people in this room that were amazing and helped me get my head around masters and methodologies and things, and I'm aware that I have come to an end of my time, but just to let you know the benefits, it did help young people. And again, as I've learned in my own time working with it, it helped young people, and young people helped Te Awa, and it was helped increase the understanding because it was simple. It gave hope. That was something that really blew me away. It gave hope, and they could transfer it onto other things, and colleagues could transfer it onto other things like diabetes journeys. Gave control. Young people could take control, give control. And it was the visual. So one of my young people I interviewed, and she at 2 o'clock in the morning drew her awa. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's really amazing. I thought I was just having this cordial helping young people get their heads around it, but they took it on and they used it for themselves. So that was a 2 o'clock in the morning inpatient reflection of a young person. So yeah, so I challenge you all to go out there and be open to metaphor, see where it goes. Be mindful that it has to be a metaphor that you and the person you're working with understands. and be, ready to help people take control, gain understanding, and potentially have hope. So, ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Thank you.
Whakaaro, I love the analogy and I imagine how I can use it. We can wānanga that, but
Yeah.
pērā waro ha tēnei kia koe mai mpātai kia koe. Tēnā koe. Thank you. Keep those questions coming on. Hopefully that's working for you guys. You can ask questions, any issues? No? Well, we organise the next speaker. Okay, so our next speaker, who I think is online.
I'm here. Can you hear me, Ahoa?
Okay, okay. Well, our next speaker, I had the pleasure of meeting for the first time in person. Obviously, I think we met online at various heiahuru mō Waihui, but I finally met her in person at the World Indigenous Cancer Conference in Naarm earlier this year, and that's Melbourne, Australia. No Ngāti Kahu, no Ngāpuhi, no Ngāti Pākehā hoki. Sasha has a background in communications, having spent 20 years working in the public and private and not-for-profit organisations. But now she's here as the Director for Equity and Whānau-Centred Care at Te Aho Te Kahu. And Sasha's going to talk about the critical role of cancer navigation in supporting patients in whānau. Nō reira, no Sasha, nau te tua papa, Ngāti Kahu, kia kaha mai rā.
Oh, kia ora, e hoa. Can everybody hear me okay? Hi. Hi. Ngā mihi nui, I apologise for not being there in person. I had hoped to be, but I've been mawiwi this week, and I'm very happy to share my thoughts and opinions with people, but I don't like to share my bugs. Great to be able to join you electronically today. Ko waio, ko Sasha Webb tōku ingoa, he uri ahau no te tai tokerau. My name is... it's lovely to be here. I know that we're running behind time, so I will try to keep this as short and sweet as I can. I am a mum, I am a nana, and I am proud to work for Te Aho Te Kahu. As Kimi said, there's a bunch of our kaimahi there with you today. I think Jemima, David, Jane, and Jason, or maybe Jason's there tomorrow. We are the government's primary advisor on all things related to cancer. I joined the organisation in 2021 and was lucky enough to do that just as we were kicking off a nationwide hui series with whānau Māori affected by cancer. So much of what I say and do in my mahi is very heavily informed by that. We heard a lot of things from whānau up and down the country over that hui series, and one of the themes that consistently rose to the top was the role of navigators or care coordinators in cancer. I'm just trying to think how to summarise it. Whānau told us that navigation makes a massive difference. And the whānau who didn't have access to navigation services didn't understand how people were able to get through their cancer experiences without the support of navigators and care coordinators. Alan is a wonderful example, and the AYA system, the adolescent and young adult cancer system, is a beautiful model. But just to be clear, that model is not in place for adults yet. So navigation is not consistently available. I feel like I'm telling people how to suck eggs because I can't see who's in the room, but I suspect it's a whole bunch of experts. So yes, as you know, it's not the same for adults at the moment. And so the whānau who had support of a navigator really felt for those who didn't. We also talked to navigators in that Hui series and since then, and they've said, look, we need proper support systems. Who's supporting the navigators and how is that support done? Because this service, this function of navigation and care coordination is not supported in the way that clinical services are. Partway through that Hui series, we also had the health reforms announced. And so as part of that, Te Aho Te Kahu did a major piece of work looking at what cancer treatment services should and could look like in the future. If anyone ever wants to read a 300-page document on that, I can tell you where to find it. But I will summarize for you the navigation section that's in there. We looked at the research internationally and within New Zealand. We leaned heavily on the work of Monica Koia and Tanya Slater. I don't know if they're there in the room. Looking at Māori cancer navigation services and their work using Kapapa Māori research methodology. And in a nutshell, what we found is that navigation services reduce the trauma of diagnosis, improve the experience, often improve treatment completion rates, and reduce non-attendance. So it is a key driver of positive outcomes, and also a really a key equity driver as well, particularly for Indigenous people. So in terms of what it looks like now, again, I suspect there's a bunch of people who are navigators in the room right now, but just to be clear, it varies in so many different ways across the country at the moment, through no fault of the people who are working directly with patients in whānau. So navigation varies in the way that it is delivered, the settings it's delivered in. Sometimes a navigator is hospital-based with a cancer-specific focus. Sometimes they are a Hawara Māori navigator or a Pacific navigator. Sometimes they're based in the community. They might be a whānau order navigator. Sometimes it's the whānau themselves doing the navigation work. You may be paid for your role, or you may not be. Your role may be something like a clinical nurse specialist or a cancer navigator or a Māori health navigator, but often nurses, kaiawhina, whanaunga, they are all doing that work of navigation as well. So I tend to talk about navigation now as a function that's delivered by a whole bunch of different people working in paid and unpaid roles. And again, those people work. Some of them work with cancer patients all of the time. Some of them work with cancer patients some of the time. Some of them have never had to work with a cancer patient before, or it might have been years and years since they've done that. It depends entirely on the situation. They're also funded in different ways as well. Again, there might be health contracts with service delivery contracts with Te Whatu Order, and until recently with Te Aka Whai Order. But there's also social sector delivery contracts through the likes of MSD and whānau order, charities. So there's so much variety in that space that it makes it very hard for systematic support to be consistently and equitably delivered to this service, this function as a whole. I promised myself I would talk slowly so that I wasn't going too fast for the interpreter, and I've completely forgotten that. Sorry, aroha mai. At a system level, as I said, there's inconsistent support for the services and there's lots of fragmented data. So the experience of someone who's offering navigation as a hospital-based, clinically trained navigator is vastly different to that of a whānau order navigator based in the community who doesn't necessarily have the same access to information and data resources that sit at the fingertips of someone who's based in hospital settings. What do we want the future to look like? So in that doorstop report that I mentioned before, one of the suggestions that we made as an organisation is that we firmly believe navigation services should be available systematically and in a range of settings for all whānau Māori and Pacific peoples affected by cancer, first of all, and that's due to the state of the inequities that those two population groups face. So we are hoping that over time, we can build the capacity, capability and scale of navigation services that are delivered throughout the motu. I also want to be clear, when we say consistent access, we're not talking about a McDonald's style approach here. So it is very much delivered in a range of settings so that there are choices for whānau about who they connect with. We think clinical expertise is a critical part of the role, but there is also no doubt that people with non-clinical backgrounds can be a hugely effective part of a navigation team too. So we are working behind the scenes, I hate saying that kind of thing, to push for investment at scale in this work over time. But I do want to be really clear, this is not the only area that we are pushing for investment on. And of course, it's a very challenging time to push for investment in any area of health at the moment. So while we're hopeful that we will see change over time, I don't want to kind of set any expectations that it will happen anytime soon at that scale that we're talking about. So in the meantime, what we've been trying to do is support as much as possible all of the best practice and the work that's happening in the community and in different settings. So for example, I know that Vicky's going to talk to you in a second about the work that the investment Te Ako Whaiora has made in cancer navigation. So we've done our best to support that mahi, and we are also watching the work of people like Maria and George and Rob and the team who are looking at work in the whānau water setting. When oncology services are delivered there, what does it look like? I feel like that's the worst romp through cancer navigation ever, but hopefully I have shaved us back a bit of time. So nei rā te mihi ki a koe, everybody. Look forward to connecting with you either through the chat or in person in future. Kia ora.
Masterfully shaving off a couple of minutes of time, greatly appreciated. There we go, leading by example and creating and also reminding us to reflect on our speed. I think the time pressure chasing us, say, to try and get to the next thing, and I think we need to actually realize that we're here to communicate and share our whakaaro, and that's no good if we're rushing and speaking too quickly, because I think I just said that too fast. Anyway, let's move on to the next speaker. We're really lucky to have Vicky Turnbull, who's coming to talk to us about how Te Ako Whaiora, the Te Ako Whaiora Cancer Care Coordination Services that was utilising budget from 2022 funding to 20 Hauora Māori partners to deliver cancer care services to whānau and communities. And the goal there is to tackle the many inequities, we all know what they are, including timeliness, access to screening, diagnosis, and treatment. So, tēnā rā atu koe, Vicky, nau mai.
Kia ora koutou katoa, ko Vicky Turnbull tōku ingoa. Lovely to be here with you all today and be a part of this incredibly important kaupapa. So my role is in the Hōra Māori Services Directorate of Te Whatu Water in the commissioning space, and I also work in the Breast Screen Aotearoa Review Program in the commissioning space as well. So in 2022, the board approved funding for cancer care coordination services, which were endorsed by Te Aho Te Kahu. And I realized that a lot of what I have in my background, Sasha has covered. So I'll just move on a little bit to the developments of that funding. So Te Ako Whaiora invested into Hōra Māori services to grow the scale and impact of cancer care coordination. In April 2023, we worked with our regional directors and partners Heihuru Mowai and Te Aho Te Kahu to invite 20 Hōra Māori partners with experience or capability to contract with us for 1 year to deliver cancer care coordination services in their rohe. Some partners were already providing services, so they were able to scale up and reach more whānau to support them throughout the cancer continuum. The aim was to invest into cancer care coordination solutions
that contribute to high survival rates for whānau diagnosed with cancer, increase the number of whānau who access cancer screening and services, including cancer treatment, and reduce delays for whānau receiving cancer care, reduce mortality following elective cancer surgery. The partners designed the services based on the fund objectives and also what they knew whānau needed in the community. They had wānanga with whānau that had lived experience to inform how they would deliver services. And these are just some of the services. They deliver a really large range, but some of them are frequent checks with general practitioner and nurse practitioners to review signs and symptoms, upscaling screening services, identifying target groups and creating a workshop plan for lifestyle changes, including healthy eating, smoking cessation, and exercise programs, and lots of others. Providing whānau with transport services to assist them to attend appointments as required, and Hawora wellbeing packs. One of the partners has been sponsored by Kathmandu Clothing. So let's get them all sponsored, I say. So funding wise, each partner received funding for services and whānau support funding. Funding was available to support whānau with transport, accommodation, parking, and anything that was a barrier to their care and identified by whānau with the partner. In 2024, funding was allocated to extend the 20 cancer care coordination agreements for a further 1-year term, bringing them to 30 June 2025. The cancer coordinators have connected with each other and regionally to support whānau. And again, these are just examples. There's lots and lots that they've done. But the cancer care coordinators have established and strengthened relationships with secondary, primary, and other cancer networks, including the Cancer Society and other treatment centres to ensure whānau access any service that they need. They've developed referrals, and I should say referrals with hospital contacts, so they can increase whānau reach. They've held double up events with Breast Screen Aotearoa, and they've attended appointments alongside whānau, including home visits. They have supported whānau who have declined treatment to engage in treatment. But of course, there are barriers as well. So Te Aka Whai Ora has had limited funding to allocate to our partners relative to the amount of funding available for mainstream services. We have been challenged by the political changes that have impacted our ability to achieve longer term outcomes for whānau by establishing longer term evergreen contracts instead of having them on a year contract year after year, and they are apprehensive to find staff or they can't find kaimahi to get into the role. We want to make sure going forward we're advocating for longer term agreements so they are able to get the kaimahi and they feel supported. And the providers have shared with us that there is issues with attracting and training the cancer care coordination workforce, and that was one of the reasons. But as part of the Breast Screen Aotearoa Quality Review, funding has been recently allocated to the cancer care coordinators and support to screening partners for kaimahi training and development. And I'm really happy to say that that was provided to them this week. So I got to have that really awesome job of letting them know that. So this funding will enable them to gain training and development opportunities, so the workforce is better placed to engage, support, and increase the number of Māori and Pacific women screened for cancer. Future aspirations. So as Sasha touched on as well, increasing the number of Hōra Māori partners providing cancer care coordination services in other areas that currently do not have a Te Aka Whai Ora, or it will be Hōra Māori Services Director funded service. And some of these areas include Taranaki, Hamilton, Hawke's Bay, and Tairāwhiti. Cancer care networks that are connected across Aotearoa. So at the moment, they're, as Sasha also mentioned, they're very fragmented. And lastly, but probably most importantly, the sustainable funded service. Thank you.
Once again, masterfully carving off some time while also detailing that fantastic financial win. We're glad to see it run a little bit longer. Let's see if we can get some more and get it going for longer. Tēnā rawa tūkoe. Right. So it is my pleasure to introduce our next speaker. This time we're going to the Bay of Plenty. Well, the Hononga no te Bay of Plenty. We've got our next speaker is from Ngāti Pūkeko, Ngāti Awa, Ngāti Tai and Te Arawa. Tanya Kingi is a long-time Māori disability advocate and is the CEO of the Kaupapa Māori Disability Organisation, Te Rōpū Waiora. Tanya is completing her doctoral studies on Indigenous and traditional Māori responses to disability, and today will provide a review of the Health Workforce Initiative from Whānau Hoa, I should say, that explores Western disability concepts, traditional Māori responses, health service experiences today, and provides some solutions moving forward. We love for the solutions. Nō reira, e te mare kura, nau mai ki te ao tāmira, tēnā rawa atu koe, Ngāti Pūkeko.
Can you hear me with can you hear me? Is it this? Hapai? Ko tēnei te mihi ki a koutou. Ngā kaimahi rangahau, ngā māhita, ngā rangatira o te motu. Tēnei te mihi ki a koutou no te wako o mātātua, no te iwi o Ngāti Awa me Ngāti Pūkeko, tēnā rā koutou. Gosh, I'm trying to figure out, are we really in the right wānanga? The kōrero is really rich and very specific, so maybe we kind of just take you on a different journey here. So, Te Rōpū Waiora, actually, that's not what I need to show. So I can take that off. Did you get the link to the app?
No, I had to ask for access. And
Okay, do you want to plug that in there?
Oh, I'm not sure how. What's this?
So, Te Rōpū Waiora is probably a very unique organisation, founded and entirely governed by whānau Hoa. And we've been asked a little bit in the last few months, what does that mean? What's this term, whānau Hoa? And some of you would know the term tangata whaikaha, fairly new term that's been introduced in our community. And because it's matariki, then I'll probably give you a bit more information on this term. If you have a look in the Māori dictionary, the modern Māori dictionary for Hoa, you will see that it says disabled, handicapped, crippled, sick. There are a number of terms that it implies. But back in 1844, the term Hoa in the first Māori dictionary that was published meant angry. And that makes a lot of sense to us because the word preceding that is ho, meaning wind, weather, and the term that we associate with tāwhiri mātea. So thanks to Rangi Mātāmua, who's been doing brilliant stuff around matariki. Most iwi now know that in our creation story, when Rangi and Papa were locked in a close embrace and all the children were getting hoha, there was a bit of a whawhai, and tāwhiri mātea, out of anger, out of complete anger and rage, tore out his eyes, crushed them and threw them to the chest of his father, Ranginui, thereby creating matariki. What people don't seem to realise is that he atua kāpō a tāwhiri mātea. So our first iconic, I guess, relationship in terms of atua for our community is tāwhiri mātea. And it's no surprise then that so many of our tohunga, if we go back in our histories, so many of our tohunga are kāpō. So I was at a hui not long ago with this brilliant awhitia who made us all go out into the grass and by the water and close our eyes so that they could karakia and pure before we started the ceremony. So we had a healing ceremony. And see, this is our amazing team who came this morning. A few members of our team are kāpō, few are turi, whānau hinengaro. They have incredible skills. That's why we're here today, to tell you a bit about these skills. Anyway, they got the giggles, our team, because they had to close their eyes. And we sort of thought, oh, okay, I'll go and ask awhitia, what's the significance of having your eyes closed during pure, during karakia? And awhitia was talking about how, without the distraction of sight, how we can connect to our atua, how we can connect to wairua, how we can connect to te taiao. So no wonder so many of our histories tell us about these amazing tipuna we had with what we call today disabilities. So we thought, well, look, we kind of have to look at the research. And, you know, when we do research, it's such a paru word among Indigenous populations. We've treated Indigenous communities really badly in the process of research. So what we've learned as a rōpū is that, you know, when you take intelligence, especially from Indigenous communities, then how you use it is really critical. Who benefits from it is massively critical. And why you have sought it in the first place and think you have a right to it is hugely critical. So we've spent 5 years among our own community. We've actually spent 22 years as an organisation testing whether or not we had a right to the knowledge that we're about to bring you now. I'm still not quite convinced we're there yet. Time will tell. But we've done a lot of self-examination to be able to share the kōrero that we're going to share with you now. So I probably don't need to tell you, and I'll give you a little bit of a backdrop. I probably don't need to tell you that this is the population, Māori with disabilities, that's been hugely, hugely underserved. And for decades, the authorities responsible for health, the authorities responsible for even learning facilities like this have ignored this population. So what we have in this health and disability sector right now is a whole lot of disability support services that are culturally incompetent and kaupapa Māori health services that are not disability accessible. So now we have a population that actually has nowhere to go as a Māori disability community. So it should not come as any surprise that this is the population with the highest health need, yet the lowest utilisation rate of services that are out in our community. Studies estimate that Māori disabled die earlier than anybody else, whether it's cancer, whether it's diabetes, whether it's any of the major conditions that impact on our people. This is the population that dies faster than anyone else. We have the highest levels of deprivation across all of the indices, social, economic, cultural. You have no idea how difficult it is to be part of wānanga on a marae when you belong to our community. And we share some of those stories, but we don't have time for that today. But we don't actually know how many people in our community There are, because we don't count them. We have such a lack of statistical data. And you kind of have to ask yourself, when an Indigenous population is colonised, then one of the ways that you measure that level of colonisation is that you count them. You count to see how many survive the process. You count to see how many are sick, how many have cancer. You count to see who has jobs, who has housing, te mea. But if you don't count them, you don't know that they exist. And you can't plan for or resource a service for an invisible population. And that's what we have among Māori with disabilities. So you would have probably kept a finger on Y2575. We're at the end of that now for Māori with disabilities. It's given us this huge stack of information just to show how dire the situation is for our population. And having said all that yucky stuff to you to start this kōrero, things are changing. We have got government departments that are now getting a little bit better with their collecting of data. We've got iwi Māori partnership boards and iwi who are taking particular notice of the Māori disability community and deliberately planning for them. We've got service providers now questioning, are their services accessible so that our community can access them? I kind of have to share what happened for us to get here today. You saw a bit of a struggle that we had with the sign language interpreters. Our members who are wheelchair users decided not to come today. It was just too much of a challenge, I guess. And this team who's responsible for this hui have done an amazing job. We don't always get service as well as we have been when we come to a hui like this. But there's still a lot of work to do. In fact, there's a massive amount of work to do. When we share pictures to a blind audience, how do we do that? When we kōrero without a sign language interpreter, then what are we supposed to do? We don't expect you to have the knowledge and the experience about that. You leave that to the experts. And the experts are here. This is the community that has the answers around how you can provide a better service in any form or shape or whatever it is that you do. So how do I get this thing up?
Yeah, it's we can't get to work this in.
I have a,
If you have it on the table.
yeah, I have it on there.
I could try the document camera and see if that works, but unfortunately we might lose our Zoom whānau.
I'm still talking to you. Sorry, I'm trying to get that one.
It's okay. Is it on your app, on your tablet here?
So we decided that we would need to do a training program for the health sector. And our community pulled all of their knowledge together and did that. They developed a training program to help organisations
On document camera.
to help organisations work better for them with.
Oh, you've got a
Is that
adapter. There we go. That'll work. If you've got an adapter, that will work perfectly. No.
cool? Are we?
Working. We're talking to each other.
So
Come on.
So we decided to do some training to teach people how to engage with our community. We do things like we come to your organisation and we have a look at how well your organisation is able to accommodate our community. And then we'll give you a report to recommend these things. We have a team in Te Rōpū Waiora Rangatahi team here who take public notices and put them into what we call disability Māori relevant panel. So Richard, who is a member of our team, is a leader in the Māori deaf community, and his mahi at the moment is developing te reo sign language, along with New Zealand Sign Language. That's Richard's office classes. Some of our members. Okay, you're gonna get.
Sorry, it's just not communicating. Got old school. I don't know, but that's what we can do.
The registration process to get here for our community was quite difficult. So if you're a member of the Kāpō community trying to register on a form, then there is a whole lot of challenge behind that. And they have all of these tips and advice as to how you do this better. Anyway, I'm just gone way off now.
Normally use it.
Halfway. So we went to Te Aka Whaiora about, I don't know, a year ago, and we said to them, hey, we've been trying for 4 years to get some government department to fund our program where we could train health workers to be able to engage with our community. They didn't bite, not on one. We were talking to Te Aka Whaiora for about 6 months, and they rolled this out. So our training is now on a digital app. And the reason why we did that was because we needed to make sure that if we're going to give all of this kōrero to health workers, then they need to be able to use it. And we understood the pressures of the health sector. We understood that, you know, with all this restructuring and stuff that's going on, time is of the essence. So the best way for us to put our training out there was to create an app. I was told not to call it an app, but I don't know what else you call it. It's a paihuarahi. So that's what you see up here. There is a tohu that we've used of the stingray. So for those of you who know a bit of the history of Tāmakina Kawerau, you might have heard of Pape. Pape was from Te Waka. Well, he came here before the Waka of Tainui arrived. He came on the back of Kaiwhare. And Kaiwhare being a stingray, we decided to use as a tohu to depict our journey. Pape had a disability. So we wanted that to be the kind of thing that we would put in people's faces just so that they could relate. Paihuarahi as an app will tell you a little bit about who we are, how to use this thing, and this is what I have to get my head around. So there are instructions here on how to use it, and then you go to the contents. We've just added a fourth part, so don't take too much notice of this layout. But part one is really important to us. Part one is the history of disability as we understand it and how it shapes and frames the way we think and behave towards people with disabilities. It has a very long Western whakapapa. So we traced that whakapapa, and our findings now are in this app under decolonising disability. Alongside of that, we decided to do some research around what did our atua, what did our tipuna think of those that had impairments prior to colonisation? What was the whakaaro of iwi Māori back then? And what were the roles that they played in Māori society? We captured all of that, and it's in the app. So decolonising disability is a film clip, and all of that information is in there. We asked people who are users of this app to give us a bit of a feedback process with our survey, and then you move to the next section. So the next section is whānau voices really heard. So these are some of the members we have here, some of the members who weren't able to come today. They put all of their kōrero together to give you a backdrop of what their experiences are like in health services today. So part one is our historical overview, so people understand why we think the way we think about people with disabilities. Part two is this has been the result of the way that we think of people with disabilities. So the journey of each of our members are captured in this sort of collage of films. There are 2 clips there. We also added 2 of our whānau put their goals in, because here's the challenge. Too often we find that service providers out there are not planning around the goals of whānau. They're planning around the goals of whatever government has decided to fund them. And the mismatch between whānau goals and service goals can be the difference between whether somebody's well or not. So we put a couple of examples in our app just so the users can just make a comparison around what whānau say their goals are and what service providers might insist that whānau goals could be. These are our contributors to these are the whānau that contributed to this kōrero. The big buzzword these days is hearing the whānau voice. We've always heard the whānau's voice because we're a consumer rōpū. All of the members of our organisation are whānau. We're not actually a service provider. We kind of help service providers engage with us. So you can click on any one of the members and get a bit of a kōrero about who they are. Māori people do this a lot, eh? They'll go through and try and figure out which ones are their whānau. So that's the only reason why we decided to do this part. We have another survey. We then went to a iwi Māori Partnership Board national hui and grabbed some people after they heard our presentation to get some feedback from them. So those of you who know Kahurangi, Dame Naida Glavish, she's a very strong advocate of our population in Rōpū. She gives her kōrero. Those of you who might know the former chair of Te Whatuora who got sacked by the last government, he actually is a very good friend of ours, and he's had a bit of a kōrero here. Louisa Wall is a member of an IMPB and used to be a Labour Party member as well, I think, yeah. So she gives a kōrero. I just need to skip this part because it's in the wrong place. Then once you've seen that, you can go to what we call paitohu. So paitohu is all of the tips and the advice and the knowledge that our community has around helping organisations engage better with them. Some of the tips we shared with the team here today, only a very small portion of them, but enough for us to be able to participate and be part of your hui. We have, how did we do this? Tips and advice. So what we've done is we've taken aspects of how you work with whānau, whether it's a hui, whether it's a conference, whether it's clinical services, and we've broken them into areas, and then whānau gives their advice around how they do this. You're probably not going to be able to hear this, but we put it on audio as well, so that if you're driving and you want to hear the kōrero, then you can do so through this app. Our kāpō community, whānau who are low vision and blind, they put all of their kōrero into the different aspects of our paitohu. Oh, gee, sorry, I'm waiting. Can you see that? You can't.
It's a little bit hard to see.
Yeah. Okay. So there are things like how you give directions. Don't say over there to a blind person, you actually have to say where there is. If you're in a hui with whānau turi, then don't bang on the table or blow into a mic, you flick the lights. It's interesting, we're so used to this sort of stuff. And so it's that kind of information that we're sharing with people. You know, don't send an emoji of a face to someone who's kapo, send the LOL because they'll get that. So there are a whole lot of things that we put in these apps. Printed materials to people who are blind. Hui and gatherings, how you do that. Hospitals, clinical rooms, all of this sort of stuff. So our turi whānau have put their tips and advice into this. Our whānau tinana, wakaturu, wheelchair users, they talk about the tapu of their chairs, so they don't go touching people's wheelchairs without permission. All of these things that we might not know about are in this app. How to provide care, same sort of thing, safety, ahara. Our whānau hinengaro, whānau takiwātanga, those who are on the autism spectrum, they too share their knowledge around how to work with this population. And then we do something that we probably didn't realise how much time it would take. But we then offer a whole lot of advice around where to from here. So, you know, if you take the app and you download it and you find out all of this information, what's the next step? So for organisations, we say, well, look, we've got a team that can come into your rōpū and can do an assessment, a Māori relevant disability accessible assessment. I really want to emphasise Māori relevant because it's quite different to that kind of assessment that has no kaupapa Māori content in it or has not considered te ao Māori. Ours does, it has to, because that's who we are. So that team is available. We have hairangi. So during COVID, we had a whole lot of whānau with disabilities who actually had no idea where to go because the information that was being provided about COVID was just out there. I mean, Delta, some of our turi community understood Delta was an airline. No one bothered to explain that that was the name of a virus. A bubble, we still think that in a lot of communities, that's sort of a air bubble that's wrapped in fluid. Whoever thought that we were going to name whānau bubbles? Without the knowledge behind a lot of the terms that we used during COVID, then you left a whole population of people behind. So Pairangi was developed by our rōpū to get that information, try and make sense of it, whack it up into a, one of these things called websites and make it totally accessible. We're now trying to figure out how can we utilise that then? If you've got all of these services out there, how do our community contact you? So we are saying to providers, come on to this website for our community to identify who you are and contact you directly. We have about 300 organisations in Tāmaki Makaurau registered on Pairangi. Pokare, there is this team of experts here. They're the ones that take your pānui, put it into Māori relevant, disability accessible information, then give it back to you so you can distribute it across your networks and utilise it that way. I guess our challenge is this. If a service is accessible to our community, then it means everyone can use it. So this is the benchmark. This population of people should be your benchmark for any service because through us, everyone else can access it as well. And it's not to feel sorry for this community. This is now about mana. The mana of an organisation to manaaki properly, we think, is the bottom line. So for your mana, you need to be able to manaaki everyone. We'll help you do that. This is an interesting development. It's called Aramatawai. We wanted an opportunity so that whānau service users could evaluate how well an organisation responds to their needs. We developed this some time ago with the help of Mason Jury and Te Kanikingi through their Hua Oranga mahi. And we've now chosen to make this another digital thing. Because our community actually is very, I'm not, but they are very digitally, what's the word, competent, savvy. So yeah, things like this work really, really well. We've just offered this to the iwi Māori Partnership Board over in Tāmaki Makaurau, Ngā Pau Hauora, or Tāmaki Makaurau, so that it will help them find out how a service user's experiencing any service, government department service, kaupapa Māori service. They get to choose who they evaluate. So this is quite an exciting thing for us and another way of hearing whānau voice. I mentioned before, Richard is leading the mahi around te reo sign. Some of you may not realise that sign language came from England. Prior to that, it came from France. Some of the signs that we have inherited are just offensive to te ao Māori. So there's some work that needs to be done to make sure that our reo and our kaupapa is properly reflected in sign language. And that's the work that Richard is leading. We have a national hui, it's probably going to be once every 2 years, where we go to different iwi and kind of say, look, do you want to host our community, whānau haua from all over the motu? And if you could, then can you find your tipuna, your atua, who had impairments and share that kōrero? So this year we're heading off down to Ngaitahu. They have really awesome kōrero that they have not yet shared among people before outside of Ngaitahu. And we'll be going down in November to experience that. This is our way of making sure that the most institutionalized community finds its way back to te ao Māori. And if you get the opportunity to see this app and look at the history of disability and the Māori part of it, the te ao Māori part of it, then you'll understand just how that is. So that's our app. That's our contribution to trying to make our community recognised as the experts and the contributors that they are. And I guess it's trying to flip the lid on the concept of disability that we use today and challenge where that came from and how it's been applied to our community. Nō reira, ka nui te kōrero I tēnei wā, engari te pātai he kōrero karanga mai. Ko tēnei te mihi, tēnā koutou, kia ora mai tātou.
He rauroa hati nei mai tātou kia koe, ko whai wā I te tākua mai o kōrero. It's also really good to see Māori innovation and successful technology. I've been up at members who really struggled a little bit, particularly no, but awesome, that's so fantastic, and I love to see that innovation. He tāmo ko nei rā te mihi kia koe. All right, tēnā koutou. Hey. We've got one more speaker and then we are going to get into the wānanga. You know, we've given you a nice big lunch break, an hour. So we're going to have to just go into that a little bit so that we can actually have wānanga, because wānanga is an important part of this. We won't have as much time, so just signaling that to you. I know that this is between you and your kai, and kai is important, but so is kōrero, and so we're going to just carry on a little bit past the hour. Okay, hopefully that's okay. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce our last speaker. I have had, again, hoki atu ki muri whenua, and it's a pleasure to introduce this absolutely wonderful whaia who I've had the pleasure of getting to know, again, probably more at World Indigenous Cancer Conference on the other side of the world, even though you work across the street. Yeah, and Te Unga Waka. So whaia Eva here, no Te Rarawa i Ngāpuhi, and she works across the road at Te Tokatumai. She's the clinical lead for Awhitia Te Tangata over there, and Te Puri Reo Te Ora. She's a health psychologist. We've done a lot of work on rangahau and pain management and chronic pain, and all of these are very important kaupapa. Tēnā koe nau mai ki te atamira e whaia Eva.
Tēnā rā koutou katoa, e te iwi nau mai rā. Tēnā rā koutou katoa. Nā mihi ki a koe, Kimi. Nā mihi mahana ki nā kai kōrero i tēnei ruma. Oh, pai rawe, ko kōrero whaia? Pai rawe. We said, hey here, who's our young girl? Ellen, I tell you. Pai rawa. So, I realized afterwards that actually addressing cancer healthcare inequities for Māori, tikanga Māori approaches are big title for what we try to do in very small steps. You know, Whaia, you're right. I think Ellen was right in that we try to do our best in our small ways. She puts the bosses as her focus. Tanya, you put our hoa as the priority, as they should be. I'll be sharing why this is so great and why we do this. Yeah. So I'm Eva Mourunga. Thank you, Kimi. You gave me all what I needed to have. Awhinetia te tangata, I'm a pau. And in Te Puri Reo, in Awhinetia te tangata. And I'll get on because, yeah. So I wanted to show, and you can tell that the way I've copied it, that I've gotten a bit out of sequence, but we began our humble beginnings in the Greenbelt study. This was really, you know, you gotta love it when you're kind of trying to help a young person and they go, why do Māori women DNA their FSA appointment? Isn't that just wonderful? We get research to get. We had COVID-19 came along. I wanted to give you this history because it was a realization that with COVID-19 happening, Puri Reo Te Ora, our directorship, realized there's going to be more possibilities of this. They're not attending their appointments. They're not getting to that treatment. Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I should go back here. Yeah. They would not attend their appointments. You know, Whānau said to me, oh, you know where COVID is? It's at the hospital. And I thought, oh, okay, matua. But come on in, we'll support you. So there we started in 2020. Our tikanga Māori, we're a tikanga Māori hospital and community-based initiative. That means that we have hospital-based services and we have our community-based. Ngāti whātua o Rākei, ngā mihi kia rātou. So good. funding for Awhine Te Tangata came through on 2023. So through the goodness of my cancer support team, I was doing mahi for Awhine Te and getting paid for by cancer support. That's how it was in those days. Back then, 2020, yeah. So, and then we got funding confirmed for our kaituku, our radiation therapist team. And they expanded from 2 back in 2022 to 4 in 2023. We now have a new service level agreement with our Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei, and we have 3 kai-urungi. This is our team. Oh, kia ora, the interpreter. Let's see who there. And I must at this time acknowledge the other po in my team, and that's Papi Muka. Papi actually was my co-speaker. She's unavailable today. Our leadership, you know, we understand as a po. There we are. People will go out from us, and then they will naturally come back when they need support. They go out, they come back. We have a kaumātua, an elder, that will support our whānau with karakia. At this point, he actually got poached by someone else, some other team within our tutukatu mai. So I'm not very happy with that team, but hey aha, they're lovely too. We have a kaituku haumanuira ruke, hence why, oh my God, 5 minutes already, radiation therapist. Our kaiarahi nahi, clinical nurse specialists, they focus in on hematology and also lung. However, should our Māori whānau come past and say, what are you doing? How can we get you? They're not averse to, we're Māori, we help. Apai. And of course, our kai-urungi i te ora, our navigators there, wonderfully there. If you can figure out a direct line to Whaiamaya in Ngāti Whātua Ōrākei and a dotted line to me and Awhine Te, that's how we're sitting. Now with Whaiamaya, we've got all these wonderful social supports that our community support workers can access for our mutual patients. Why I say mutual? Because we're interdependent and interrelated. We are independent, that I can't do anything a kaituku can do. Oh, please, Lord, no. It'd be like a bit like Star Wars. And I certainly can't do kaiarahi nahi work. However, we have mutual patients and we will help them. We come together frequently. So, the tikanga and values. Now, we all know these values. It's te ao Māori, manakitanga, mana and aroha, uplifting their mana, showing aroha. How is that? A kind word, listening, mana, we listen, uplift. You know, I love it. It's a quick exercise. Can we, Nina, can we do this? Okay, write out the word manakitanga. Just on a piece of paper, write out the word manakitanga. Now I want you to put a dash, a slash, dash, in between mana of the first day and the second day. Then I want you to put another slash behind that second day, before the K. Then I want you to put another slash behind ki, the I. Then I want you to put a bracket, TA, and another bracket. Mana of and to the person, mana of and to the people. Simple. We are uplifting people. We are seeing and addressing people. Okay. We're naturally going to build whakawhanaungatanga. Our aim and our team is manamotua hake.
self-autonomy that says to me, hey, Eva, I don't think I need you anymore. I don't think I need you fellas. My whānau's coming to the fore now. I'm all right. To a kanataina, that operates very well amongst the team and also deeply within our kaituku radiation therapists. We want to acknowledge that, you know, most of our cancer patients, they're a bit older, but even the younger ones, we can learn. It's very much a reciprocal relationship. I want to also tell you that there is another model that I'm going to have to do some research on that because it was a kākano given to me by my grandfather in how we serve people. And people I've spoken with, they've not seen it as alien. But I want to introduce you to matua. Matua is lovely. We had heard about matua way beforehand in a very inclusive professional MDT email, which we were CC'd into. When it got down to it, we were the only team besides a Māori health provider up north that were willing to support this. He blotted his copybook so badly that, you know, I was in wonderment that that Māori health provider even came to help him. But within our team, we acknowledged what he was going through. You know, the CT simulation, the RT. That's actually wrong. He actually had 7 weeks daily intensive. We had teams involved. Okay. Teams involved Kairiki Nahi, the nurse specialist, myself, and Papi, radiation therapists, and that Māori NGO. We brought all that we could of Te Ao Māori to the fore. We wanted him to succeed. And you know what? One part there, he wanted to go home to Whangarei, and he's got a sister there, but it wasn't the sister he wanted to see, it was his dog. And, you know, lovely gentleman, and he came back. We arranged it that he would go on the shuttle home to Whangarei. His Māori provider would see him at the bus stop, take him home, and then pick him up on the Monday. It was all arranged by radiation therapy too, with those who were supporting him. It was great. And you know what? I haven't got it here, but he did it. He did it. He completed his radiation therapy when nobody else had actually thought he would. Wonderful. And these stories are not, this story is not these other like stories. We know them. Now I'd like to acknowledge especially the people, Te Pūrere o Te Ora, because without Te Pūrere o Te Ora directorship, we wouldn't have come about. Ngāti Whātua, who are open-minded to working with us because, you know, sometimes working with other organisations, it's not great for them. And I'd also like to acknowledge my colleagues in our whenatia te tangata. Also, I'd like to say, because it's very true, tāwhiti rawa tō tātou haerenga kia kore e haere tonu. He nui rawa o tātou mahi kia kore e mahi tonu. We have come too far to not go further, and we do have too much to not do more. And that's, you know, in the house. I'd just like to, and that's a whakatauki that I always love, because this keeps you going when the times are tough. Ka pai tēnā, kia ora. Ngā mihi kia koutou, mō tō aroha, and listening. Kia ora. Thank you.
So another person from the north, they're kind of onto it up there, from Te Tautokere ne. Of course, I don't think I ever told any of you my whakapapa no te aupuri me te raro aho, so that you can see my biases coming through. And with that, I'm going to move us into the wānanga space, and we're going to again someone from Wiri Whenua no Ngāti Kahu. So I'm going to welcome Carissa, who's going to masterfully walk us through a wānanga session. I'm conscious that we are in between you and being fed, but we want to make sure that there's time for this wānanga. Right, we've had some fantastic ideas, some fantastic innovations in kōrero. We want you guys to be involved now because this is a really, really important part. And then we can go and have a kai and celebrate all our wonderful new ideas to change the way that we're going to do things for our whānau with cancer. So while Carissa is coming up, and I'm going to ask very kindly if our speakers could come back down after I've just sent you one back up to come down and participate in the panel, if that's okay. I'm going to try and get the Slido working. So if you have it already, please go and look at the question. Yeah, I know. Thank you. Co-host, I just need to plug it in. So while you guys are getting comfortable and sorted out, where's yeah, no, I know. Present. You need it? You don't need a screen or anything. I can just have one up.
Have you got questions? You probably need the thing to come to us.
Oh, yeah, we will. Yeah. Oh, come on.
You prepare it, or is that?
Yeah, I think, yeah, might need to. That should work. Kia ora, Anna. Okay, and then I just need to 1 second, bear with me, Zoom whānau. Well, keep feel free to take over.
What questions are you putting up?
I'm just putting up some whakawhanaungatanga. That's what I'm doing. Can you guys see that? Hang on, come on.
I just want to know what the other ones are.
What can you guys see on Zoom?
That one gone. Okay, there are some questions, but I'm just going to make up my own. Ko maunga tani whāti maunga ko te oinu te awa, ko te matara te marae, ko ngā tuhianga te hapu, ko Ngāti Kahu te iwi. Kia ora koutou. I also like eating, and at the moment, would really like to get there sooner rather than later. I see my whanaunga still on the screen. Can you hear us, Sash? Yep. Okay. So you might have some questions, and this is that opportunity now to actually ask some of our panelists those questions. If you don't have questions, then I've got some that I've made up, more around Matariki. The connection with our kaupapa and Matariki, but before I get to mine, does anyone have any questions? Just wondering whether it's light so we can see it. They wanted some lights. Can you tell me if I'm going to? Oh, thank you. So this morning's session was quite full on. There was lots of information, and there was a lot of mātauranga that we were offered, and what comes out for me, and I don't know if it's the same for you, is what we call the connection between our upper jaw, or te kauairunga, and our lower jaw, te kauairaro. And people who have met me know that I talk about the upper jaw and lower jaw a lot. And all of the kaupapa that came through today actually spoke of that. And the reason why we're going to go here is because in the fourth, this is the way I can tie it together. In the top panel of Te Kauairunga, there are 4 things. Wairua, maha maha, So emotions, so why does spirituality, maha, your emotions, wānanga, philosophy, and hine ngaro whakarunga, and that's our intellect. The line that comes straight underneath that sits between the upper jaw and the lower jaw is called toe. In Te Ao Māori and the kōrero that we did today was all about creating toe, bringing balance back to the pathway, the cancer pathway for whānau, and intuitively doing it. So doing it in our upper jaw. We talked about the 1 minute rule, the 1 minute kaupapa. Have you ever walked into a room and just gone, oh man, that person just needs me right now? How many clinicians have we got? Nurses, doctors, therapists. So by clinicians, I mean lower jaw clinicians, because we're all upper jaw. We've got all our experts down here. You're all upper jaw experts for us. You have a science that we actually can't measure yet. So in the lower jaw, sorry, I digress, we have hine ngaro whakararo, and that's intelligence. Now, the difference between intelligence and intellect is an example in cooking. An intelligent cook will go to the kitchen, they will take the recipe out, they will pull all the ingredients out of the cupboard and cook you a kai. The intellectual cook will go into the kitchen, ignore the recipe, look in the cupboard, pull out some magic ingredients and cook a magic kai. So it's creative thinking, it's creatively thinking versus the lower jaw of the science and the research that we have come to believe is the right way forward. Then in the next one down is harato. Harato is our practical thinking, that's the can-do attitude, that's the applications that we have. We then have okiko, which is our physical being, tangible, right? You can see what I physically look like, physically smell like. And then rauimi are our materials that we use. So, now that I've thrown you off, my question back, and it's actually to everybody, when we look and we reflect on the year that we have had, we are now in Matariki and it's our time to reflect. And you look at the year of potential, ki te mā tātahi, preparing for that future. Can you consider that there might be a new way of doing what you do? So for the clinicians, have you ever sat in your office or your clinic or with whānau and gone, actually, this whānau member's meant to be here. They're here for me. There's no coincidence, right, in our engagement. It was all written in the stars. They are not there by coincidence. We are not here today by coincidence. There is a meaning that was written long before we were all here that aligned those Matariki stars. Have you considered that?
I just got a question. Georgia, just thinking since you're so fabulous, and it's all about connection, how do you kind of work your co-pilot together? I mean, we've got the entity coordinators, the whānau, our leaders, wonderful partners here to come together and healing service of all Mātauranga leads approach to how you know, there must be a way of and I'm sure they are all connected in some places.
I'll answer that.
I think it's called divine intervention. Like divine intervention, like one of us is liberated. We might travel with different kaupapa, but we are divine intervention and we were predestined to be here in this place right now. And that is what quantum science does. It allows all of our intervention, prevention, to come together as one. Each person has been given the mama to stand for their own mama right here, right now. And inside of the mama that they stand, they don't stand for, we don't stand with I. We stand with we. And that's when I'm signal. When you stand as we, when you stand to be able to be unison with each one's kaupapa here right now. Kare. See the two. Oh.
So on that, Nina obviously wants me to move on to asking questions rather than talking. So there was one question about cancer care coordinators and navigation. I was going to take this into the Upper Jaw and talk to you about navigation, how it's a real Māori concept, but it's actually a tangata Pacifica concept too. But is there in your work, Vicky, have you seen a pathway, or is there a clear pathway how to become a navigator for whānau in cancer care?
You referring to how a coordinator developed?
Yeah.
I think that is what community that funding that I discussed today. So, but as a group, I think that that coming together and thinking about how they're going to develop, because they have mentioned quite a lot that it is hard to retain personality, and they're not entirely sure what kind of training would be suited to keep them in their role, to keep them there, and interested that there are other barriers as well, like the funding not being any longer June 25 at this stage. So yeah, I think that it is something that we need to prioritize and connect and discuss. I don't know how that will affect. I think we're only just after the plans to move on, I think just start to actually come together and think about that. And then
you don't want to say this without sounding nasty. My mother said I'm not really diplomatic, so I need to be more. Why do we have these roles for coordinators? Why do we have these roles for navigators, facilitators? We have them because the system in which we exist is a hell of a mess. It is complex, it is difficult, and particularly for our community, trying to get from home to a service requires navigation. It should not. The issue that we have as a Māori community is that we have about 7, 8, 9 different navigators that work with the same fund. And they come from MSD, they come from health, they come from justice, they come from the disability community. And all of them vie for the right to navigate this funding through a very complicated system. We have spent so much time trying to figure out navigation instead of cleaning up the mess. The mess, if we didn't have such a messy system, we wouldn't even need navigators. Finally, a natural navigators. We've never been on the mara, and an Andy's going, you go and see that person, you go and see it, am I talking to him? You go this way. Those were our natural navigators. So over the years through the disability sector, we've taken the obligation whānau used to have to look after our own, and we put that in service providers. Now we have to pay agencies to look after our whānau, when originally that is our role. Our mana was based on the ability to look after our own. We don't have that anymore. So I really appreciate the fact that we are looking for resources to resource these positions, but let's question why we have them in the first place. Now we're trying to figure out how do you navigate navigators? How do you coordinate coordinators? There's so many of them. We should have just cleaned up the mess. We should still just clean up the mess.
Okay. Beautiful. And I would be much more blunter. I would really be blunt because whilst we have in our team all those roles and responsibilities, and they own to where they sit, that we come together for a purpose. And we don't see ourselves as navigators. There was a reason why I named it Awhina Te Tangata. It's so simple. All we do is help the person, help the farmer. It's as simple as that, the guiding. Who are at the top for us? And this is the service model I'm speaking about. It's the people. It's farmer. You know, when we came together as our kaihuri mahi, one had to, she had to head up north because her husband had worked up there and went, what a pretty lady, love your husband, well done. And when that vacancy was there, I said to my other nurse, because we work with PSA, I said, who do you want to work with? Oh, somebody just put their hand up. Do you like it? And she said, yes. Can you work with him? Yes. That is the amount of interviewing we did. Because that's how I wanted it to be. You know, it is very much the our mind. We take our roles and responsibilities on. No matter if it's on the marae, I see my workplace as a marae. I'm going to place it like that. And I will support my people like that.
So hopefully you're on, Sasha. If the problem is that we shouldn't have to need navigators because the system itself should be there. And your team are responsible for policy. How do we ensure that there's constant and real-time feedback so that your team have the right evidence? Because, sometimes it changes, right? It's ongoing, it evolves. How do we make sure that you have the right information, and how do we make sure it's from the experts like the experts here in the room?
I wondered where you were going with that question to start with, Ehoa. I thought you were going to ask for us to completely redo the system. I just want to start by saying I agree that ideally we wouldn't need navigation because the system would be designed in ways that suit our whānau. But that is a big old elephant for us to try and eat. So, oh gosh, you put me on the screen. I guess one of the key things for us is to be able to regularly connect with and get insights from people who are working directly with our whānau. And I mean that in the broadest variety of settings. It is very easy for us as an entity sitting within the health system to connect with mainstream health providers, hospitals, etc. We have all of those contact details, but I don't have the contact details of all the people who are working in whānau order systems, in voluntary system, voluntary organisations across the motu. And so for us, I think it's really important that we are informed by what is happening on the ground at the time as much as possible. Either through me or through any of the kaimahi that work for Te Aho Te Kahu. Kia ora.
Yeah. It's 20 past. We're heading into lunch.
Good idea.
Are there any final questions? Any final questions for our panel? Kia ora.
Just from the university, thank you so much for what you've brought. Would you be willing to come back another time after today? So we can continue the month.
I think we are.
Aye.
So that's, do you want to close it or do you
Yep, close it if you want to.
just handing over?
Okay. Kia ora koutou. Turn that off now. Yeah, I realise it's time for kai. I just want to give one final big homai te pī ki paki o tō tātou nei a kāhui mātauranga here. Please give a big round of applause for our amazing panelists, the speakers from this morning one more time, including Carissa, who put the hard questions to our panelists and got the kōrero moving. The wānanga doesn't have to stop there. Keep discussing over lunch. Make sure you actually get to know each other first, of course. I'm going to throw another Slido question on, and what I want you to think about in the spirit of reflection. Matariki been amazing. Some people have been celebrating Matariki for a while already in their whānau. Some of us, and I'll put my hand up, probably only really took to it once Rangi Mātāmua put it on the map for us a lot more and gave us the way forward. So with that in mind, how have you been celebrating or thinking or honouring Matariki over the few years or however long it is? And just start, if you're willing to share on Slido, share your ideas, whether it's going to Hautapu early in the morning, whether it's just getting together for a kai and thinking about those we've lost. Hey aha, whatever it is, share it, and on Slido if you can. Koroa, haere koutou ki te kai, and have a good break. We'll be back here sharply at 2 o'clock. Kia ora koutou. Should we pause the recording now? Oh, yeah. All right. All right. Oh, no. We're back. Okay, kia ora koutou. I'm mindful of time. And so thank you for coming back after a kai. Hopefully you had a good kai. Hope you had a good day. Got a few people very quickly to acknowledge, to thank, as we think about the kai that we've just had and all the things going on and all the work that's gone on to get us here today. So I'm just going to take this opportunity to acknowledge and mihi atu to the lead organisations who have helped contribute to the Matariki Rangahau series. So firstly, our partners of the Matariki Rangahau series. So obviously Waipapa Taumatara where we are, Te Akama Tauranga Mate Pukupuku Centre for Cancer Research, but of course led by Heiahuru Mowai and Health New Zealand, Te Whatuora. So just a big mihi to those organisations for getting us here today, and to all of the organisers. Really quickly, hopefully some of you participated in some of the whakawhanaungatanga. We obviously have quite, whoops, wouldn't help that. Quite a few of us. I think my reflection on the questions here is, this is what happens when you put a laboratory scientist and trying to come up with qualitative questions to actually get answers out of people. They're not quite getting the answers that you're looking for. So I need to work on my question design, I think. But anyway, most of us there are from Tamaki, as you can see. Nohia Koto, so that was exactly where you're from. Whoops, that's what I just said. And what sorts of research in there? Love to see kaupapa Māori coming up there in the middle. Please continue to participate in that if you can. Over just before break, I asked you guys to, you probably didn't because you were eating and talking. Great. I'll leave this one up. So if you want to open-ended question, just write a little story about how it is that you celebrate or observe Matariki over the last little while. There's no right or wrong answers, obviously. It's just how you have had the chance to do it. And hopefully you might see some cool ideas from others if we're open to share them a bit later. Right, we have another panel of awesome speakers. Full disclosure, I'm going to be much briefer in the biography so we can get straight to hearing actually their nuggets and